Hey folks, let's quote Bad Edit Pro, Joe Collins now. How's about a video about audio? There are probably going to be a ton of these lately because I've sort of neglected making videos about this stuff for a while, so get ready for an onslaught of audio equipment. So, today it's about this turntable because it's my most recent toy and something that I'm really having a lot of fun with right now. So, this is sort of a high end of the low end Technics direct drive turntable from the 80s. The cartridge is from 1989, so I'm not sure if the turntable's from the same time period or not. It's definitely from the 80s or at the latest the early 90s, but I'm going to say probably the 80s. And there's a story behind this. So I go to the record shop usually every week to hang out and talk to the owner because I know him pretty well and work for him sometimes. And usually I end up with stuff when I leave, usually records. But I ended up with a turntable this time. A guy walked in just trying to get rid of some stuff he had. It was a bunch of records and this turntable. And the dude who owns the shop ended up buying all the stuff from him. And this turntable I decided to pick up. And you gotta understand, when this came in the shop, it was disgustingly dirty and nasty, like caked with dirt on the dust cover. So I paid $10 to get this thing because it was untested and unknown condition, and it was dirty as hell. So I cleaned up the dust cover just with a paper towel, a damp paper towel, and I pulled off black gunk. I don't know if that was attic gunk or dirt gunk, or garage gunk rather, but it was thick on there and pretty nasty. So, but I managed to get it all off, most of it off. There's some spots where that dirt still is, as you can see. So I'm probably gonna have to take a vacuum to this at some point. But it's clean enough that I can use it and test it and all that stuff. So I brought it home. I've had it sitting plugged into my stereo for most of the week, and I was surprised how nice this thing was. Normally when you see a Technics chassis like this on a turntable, you assume it's low end. Most of these I see are belt drive. They have the Preamp cartridge, and they don't have this light, I think, most of the time. So, yeah, this one's actually pretty high-end it's like the high end of the low end, as I like to say. It's got auto-sensing of record sizes, 12 and 7, and you can always just do it manually for 10-inch discs. It has a strobe light. It has a light up here so you can see what you're doing on your record player. Came with a 45 adapter, of course, but like a lot of turntables, they didn't make a little spindle to put that 45 adapter, so I think they assume you just leave it on here when you're not using it, or you put it somewhere else. So, yeah, this is the high end of the low end. This is a Technics Quartz direct drive automatic turntable, the SL-QD35. I looked this up online after I got it, and people really like these. They're pretty well regarded. And the thing I like the most about this is, despite it being an automatic turntable, most of the mechanism is really simple. Like, for example, the record sensing system is completely mechanical. It's not electric, which I really like. Most of the mechanics of this stuff are not electric. Obviously, to run the motor and the quartz lock and the speed and all that stuff is going to be electric, but most of the mechanical stuff isn't. And I'm very happy about that, because that means that in the event that this thing were to malfunction, it'll probably be an issue of mechanics rather than an electrical issue, which means you could probably just disassemble this thing, go in there with some degreaser and some white lithium grease and make everything work again. So, luckily I didn't have to do that. This thing works just fine. It even had a good stylus on it because the guy kept the stylus protector. This is the cartridge that came in it. It is an Audio-Technica, and it's not focusing well, it's an Audio-Technica TR441U, which sounds surprisingly good. It's sort of a bright cartridge. The stylus was good on it, so that's what I've been using ever since I got it, and it's nice. So here are the controls on the front. You get 33, standby, and 45. You get a repeat function. You get queuing, which I don't know if that's mechanical or not. Looks like it is. Cool. Yeah, that's mechanical too. That's good. and you have a start-stop button, because this is a fully automatic turntable. And this thing takes, of course, P-mount cartridges, which is the T4P that you see on the side of a lot of these head shells on lower-end turntables. It has pre-adjusted anti-skating and tracking. It's pre-adjusted to 1.25 grams. So for those of you that are very OCD about heavy wear on your records, a turntable like this will definitely be very nice to your records with that low of a tracking force. It has an aluminum straight tone arm with an angle on the front, so it's, you know, it's not unlike some of the newer turntables you can get today that have that feature set. Also, the other reason I picked up this turntable, I forgot to mention, is that it actually had a dust cover. A lot of these, the dust cover is really easily removable on these, as you can see. So a lot of the time you just find these turntables just like this, where there's no dust cover and no nothing, and I've usually pass on that because if there's no dust cover for a turntable, it's just going to get nasty and you're going to have to clean it constantly, and I didn't want that. So this had an intact dust cover, so that's what made me want to pick this up immediately, because I never find these with dust covers. So anyway, that's the front feature set of the turntable. One thing I forgot to mention is that when I got this thing, it came with rubber feet that were all deteriorating and sort of falling off, so I bought some new ones on eBay, and that's taken care of now, so it actually has some decent rubber feet on it. Let's take a look at the back. Alright, here you go. Made in Japan. The real deal, man. 11 watts out of the wall. There's the serial number. And here are the connectors down on the bottom. So you have your power connector, which is just a 2-prong plug. Luckily it did come with that. It's just all plugged into my stereo at the moment. I don't want to disassemble that. And then we have the phono section, which has your typical RCA jacks, but it has a really weird jack here that's almost like a DC jack. I don't know what they were thinking. Technics like to have a removable ground connector, but they didn't just use a lug. They used a weird DC jack connector thing. And I did manage to find a cable for that on eBay as well, so that worked out for me pretty easily. But just so you know, these do have I don't know if you could call it proprietary, but an unusual ground connector. It's pretty much just like a DC jack. Here are the cables. This is that power connector here. It's just like a boombox. It's like an old boombox type cable, except it's not polarized and it doesn't have a ridge in the middle. Here is that unusual ground connector, which I managed to find. It looks almost like someone just took a spade connector and chopped the spade off of it. And of course, these are the RCA cables that came with it, and they were in fairly good condition. And they were made in Japan as well, so I have all that plugged into a really crappy preamp. The Pile Pro PP999. I've had this thing for probably a decade now, and I use it for testing mostly. I really need to get a better listening preamp in the instance that I'm going to have a second record player like this plugged into my stereo, but this one does work. The only real flaw it has is it doesn't really have a place to put a ground terminal. So what I did to mitigate that problem is I just daisy-chained it onto the ground connector on my Fluence turntable here, and that seems to do the trick. So I was also using this piece of cardboard while I didn't have the right feet for this, so I didn't screw up my stereo cabinet there. And yeah, let's hook this thing up and I'll show you it in operation. Alright, there it is on top of my stereo cabinet. We still have to do a video on all this equipment here, but yeah, this turntable is the subject of this video. We'll save all that for later. But it looks pretty snazzy on top of this thing. It would probably fit in this little turntable cove down here, which I have a bunch of other stuff in at the moment, but yeah, these are nice and small and great for that purpose. There we go. The one thing I still need to do to this turntable is I need to replace these rubber bumpers that are on the dust cover. Now, these are very hard to source by themselves. I've not been able to find find them on eBay or anywhere. You have to buy a dust cover and nab them off of that one, which is what I ended up doing. It turns out that my AT-LP60 has a dust cover that uses these same exact bumpers. So I bought a parts turntable that hopefully we'll fix in a video, and I'm just going to steal the rubber bumpers from that and put the deteriorating ones in the in the broken one. So that'll work in my favor, I think. And the other thing is I wanted to replace this cartridge. As much as I like Audio-Technica cartridges, I wanted something better than this for a P-mount system, because the whole point of getting this turntable for me is so I could play with the different P-mount cartridges that they have. There's this Audio-Technica one, there's a Shure cartridge I'd like to get a hold of, and one that I did get a hold of today is an Ortofon, an OMP5E, which should be very similar to the OM5E, only in P-mount form. So it should sound very good. That should be the end-all be-all cartridge for this turntable for me, I think. So first we'll give a demonstration with the old cartridge and see how it plays and everything. So I have it plugged into that preamp, and that's plugged into my receiver down here, this NAD. Might help if I turn the power strip back on. It's plugged into this NAD receiver down here, and we'll give this thing a shot. Okay. The record we'll be using to demonstrate this Audio-Technica cartridge and its performance is, of course, Slugbug's Truck Month. Here's what it looks like when it's on. There's the strobe, which on the camera, of course, you can see the refresh rate going nuts, but in real life, it's still. There's the light that illuminates your record, so you can select what you want, which is very nice. Let its auto cycle go through because we've been screwing around with it. So let's give it its automatic cycle here. Let me turn the stereo up. So as you can see, it cycles just fine. No problems there. Queuing works, so I can move to, let's say, and play that song. Here's the cycle off, which is also pretty smooth. Well, the arm's a little bit jerky. It could probably use grease, but it still works, so I'm not going to touch it for now. And you can see the electronic brake on that direct drive mechanism works pretty well too. Even through that crappy preamp, that record sounded excellent. So this cartridge did an excellent job, I would say. But I have better cartridges. Why don't we try them? Now this I thought was amusing. The guy really took care to ship this cartridge to me, and he gave me a P-mount adapter too, which is really nice, so I could use this in a half-inch mount head shell if I wanted to, but I'm going to choose to use it in a P-mount turntable instead, so that I have a good cartridge in there. But it came in an Audio Technica container, which I just thought was kind of amusing, even though it's an Ortofon OMP 5E. So I'll show you how easy it is to install P-mount cartridge. Okay, so here we have a good view of the cartridge. And P-mount cartridges were developed for low-end turntables because they're very easy to service and easy to change and deal with. Taking the stylus off of a cartridge like this is pretty easy too. And taking the stylus off is pretty easy. You just take it off from the back, I believe. And it just comes right off. And here you have the Audio Technica stylus, which is in decent shape. It's a little corroded on the cantilever, but the stylus is intact and the turntable sounds just fine. So I don't see a reason to change it until it's worn out. But you can also see that there is a little screw right here. You can also see that there's a little screw right here, and that's what makes this so easy. P-mount cartridges are called P-mount for a reason. The P stands for plug-in. It's a plug-in cartridge. So it's held in by a screw and the friction of the plug. So what you have to do is take the screw out. See if I can get that out of there. Which is typically a kind of a long screw with a thread on the end. And then you can take the cartridge and just pull it straight out. There you go. P-mount. And just uses your typical 4-connector arrangement. And you can take this cartridge off. Of course, what you definitely want to do is put the guard on while it's off, so that if you drop it, you won't destroy anything. Then we can take our new cartridge, take it out of its container, and be good to go. Now the guy was nice enough to put an adapter in here, so I'm just going to pull this cartridge out of its P-mount adapter and leave the guard on the cartridge and install the cartridge just by plugging it in. That's how easy it is to change cartridge on P-mount. It is dead easy. So this is a new old stock Ortofon OMP 5E that I managed to find on eBay. This is a particularly hard variant of this cartridge to find, so I'm glad I found it. They still sell the OM5E for half-inch mount turntables, so if you want to hear what this cartridge sounds like for yourself, pick up an OM5E. It should sound pretty much the same. The only difference, I think, is the mounting system. So once you're done putting that cartridge in, you stick the screw back in so that it holds the connector in, holds the cartridge in. Screw her back in. There you go. Look at that. Beautiful. And that's the cartridge I'm likely just going to use with this turntable, and I'll keep the old Audio Technica around as a spare. So the Ortofon cartridge will live on this turntable. I have never really had a decent automatic turntable. I've had issues with the Sony one that I had about, a decade ago. You guys saw me get the Fluons behind this turntable because of that, which is a mostly manual turntable. It is auto stock. But this one's a fully automatic. It's very mechanical in the way it works, and I think it will do wonders for an automatic turntable. It might not stay up here on this particular piece of furniture, or on this stereo rack, but it does a decent enough job that it's a good turntable to just take out for fun. I might switch out the stereo system in my bedroom and use a different one, so I can use this turntable with it. I have some realistic components that it would go well with. So that is how easy it is to change cartridge on a P-mount turntable. It is dead easy. So now why don't we give this Ortofon OMP5E a little test, shall we? Here's what the other side of the cartridge looks like, just in case you were curious. Last time I saw one of these was in a V Westlife video from years and years ago. I think he has one of these, or at least he had one, and that's where I first heard of one of these. And since then, I've learned of the OM5E, and that's why I decided to pick this up. There's also a Shure cartridge I'd like to get at some point, but this Ortofon is better than the Shure, so the Shure is just going to be a for fun cartridge that would likely be another spare, just like this Audio-Technica cartridge will probably end up being. Hell, I could put that in the P-mount adapter and use it as a cartridge for a regular turntable as well. So anyway, let's give the OMP5E its first foray. So I think I'm just going to manually select a song this time. Helps if you turn the turntable on. So let's do Macintosh tapes again. I'd say that is a definite improvement over the Audio-Technica. The quality of the bass and the treble seems to be about the same, but there's a lot less sibilance, I've noticed. This Audio-Technica had quite a bit more sibilance on it, which could be wear, or it could just be the way the cartridge sounds, since I didn't replace the stylus when I first got this. But the stylus is still good, but it might not be as good as I thought it was. So I think it was a good move getting this Ortofon, for sure. Oh, let's do one more song. Why not? Let's let the auto thing go back. Yeah, I think this looks pretty sharp with that Ortofon on it, but let's do one more song. Any of you that are very into your vaporwave will know this one just by looking at it. show you the auto return in action. There it goes. Bam. So that was a demonstration of this Technics SL-QD35, an excellent high-end of the low-end turntable, as I like to call it, with the various features such as the strobe, the light up there, the light up thingy here, which I forgot to point out earlier, the automatic mechanism, the direct drive mechanism. This is an excellent turntable. Despite it being P-mount, you can still find some decent cartridges for these, even today. If you look around, you can find them. So, there you go. That is the SL-QD35. There are more videos of audio stuff to come in the future. I just thought I'd show you guys this, since this is my project lately. The only thing I have left to do is to change out these rubber bumpers, which I'll get to later on. That's really not worth a video. And you'll see the turntable that I got to rob the rubber bumpers off in a future video, more than likely. That might even be the next one. I'm not really sure. So, there you have it. I hope you guys enjoyed seeing this turntable in action. If you want to reach me on social media, Twitter is down below. So is Reddit, although I don't know how much longer I'm going to keep that page up. There's also our Discord community, so if you like to come in there and yammer on about whatever, the link is also down below. Anyhow, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and have a good one, everybody. Ciao.